Hi, and thanks for taking the time to watch this webinar. It should help you understand and complete the ECEAP Services Contract Operating Budget Deliverable for your organization. So, first things first, you can find the operating budget template on the website at www.dcyf.wa/services/eCAP/contractors/deliverables. When you open up the file, you will see two tabs at the very bottom of the worksheet. First thing you will want to do is click on the Operating Budget Instructions tab right here. Please read through this guide before attempting to complete the operating budget. It is filled with a lot of very good information, including a brief description of the purpose and importance of the operating budget deliverable, as well as general instructions and then definitions for the expense, revenue, and spending categories. Again, please take a few moments to read through this guide. It will help you complete your organization's operating budget. After reading the instructions and reviewing the category definitions and associated terminology, click the Operating Budget tab located at the bottom left of the screen, right next to the Operating Budget Instructions tab. I know it's a little small on the screen, but it's right down here. Also, please keep in mind that this is a large document with more information than I can fit on the screen at once to show you. So please be sure to scroll down and to the right to see the rest of the document. At the bottom left of the document, you will see these two tables. All information in these tables is formulated and auto-populates based on the information entered above and should not need any editing. They are summary and cross-checking tools for DCYF staff members. You will be filling in the box in the upper left corner right here. The light orange sections in the middle, where you will enter the contract-specific information and the budgetary numbers for the funding layers that apply to your organization's contract for the DCYF ECAP funds you received from the state. If you scroll over to the right, past the light orange section, there is a larger section for other revenue sources. This section is not required. However, we ask that you enter as much information as you can so that DCYF can have a more informed picture of actual costs and the need for additional funding to adequately meet the needs of your community and the children and families you serve. This additional information gives ECAP staff and policymakers necessary documentation for legislative decision packets during state legislative sessions. After having carefully read the operating budget guide, you're ready to begin filling out the form. The answers to these blanks can all be found on the A19, which is sent with your contract. Please fill these 4 sections out as they appear on your A19. The contractor name appears in the box you see here, labeled vendor or claimant. The contract number and service period are located at the top right corner of the A19 in a box that looks like this. The contract number is located here, and the contract service period is located here. Finally, the total contract amount is found almost right in the middle of the A19, right here, but keep in mind that your organization's A19 will not be blank. Next, move over to the right of this section where you'll enter information about your slots in that second circle. If you don't already know the number of slots that your ECAP services contract funds, you can find that information in the Contract Statement of Work, Section 15A, It can also be found on the budget reference document that comes with your contract package. Including slots that are not funded by your ECEAP services contract is not required, but it is useful to the agency to, again, better inform legislative asks. Finally, the total number of slots serviced contains a formula, adding the cells above it so nothing is required of you for that field. Moving on, let's talk about entering your revenue sources. Start by entering your ECEAP services contract funds. This section is located at the top left of the operating budget template. Depending on the program layers of your organization's contract, you will need to list the program funding layers separately. This information can be located at the bottom of the budget reference document, which is sent with your organization's contract package. It will look like this, except of course not blank. Please note, once filled out properly, these total contracted funds should equal the total contract field you filled in right here. The next section is the Other Revenue section, which is to the right, past the light orange section in the middle. This section is for you to add additional funding that your organization utilizes to make up your total program budget. I'd like to take a moment to mention that this section for additional funding sources and associated budgetary information is not required. However, filling it out to the fullest gives DCYF staff a better picture of costs for ECEAP contractors. This additional information helps to inform legislative asks and other high-level funding requests. DCYF staff appreciate the additional time it takes to complete the form to its fullest. This light orange section you see here is where you will enter the expenses that your ECEAP funds are paying for. You will notice there are sections for pre-K ECEAP, birth through 3 ECEAP, sometimes referred to as early ECEAP, Eclipse, and the complex needs grant funding. Again, depending on your organization's contract, you will need to break expenses out into the various funding layers in your contract. Before getting into the nitty-gritty of the budget information, I want to bring your attention again to the Instructions tab, where useful definitions for administrative and program cost categories are just a click away. Likewise, definitions for the spending categories are also located there. Now that you are familiar with the logistics of the form, have a good understanding of the instructions and definitions, the contract information filled in, and the revenue sources listed, it's time to start filling in the budget numbers. I know this is too small to read, but I wanted to show the body of the form in its entirety at least one time. Keep in mind that this light orange section on the left of the body of the budget is for expenses that your organization will be using ECEAP services contract dollars for and is required. This section to the right is optional, but please keep in mind that filling it in will benefit DCYF staff and policymakers by informing high-level funding needs and legislative asks. Also, when both sections are used, this document can inform your organization's total program budget. When this section for other revenue sources is completed, the total revenue field here utilizes a simple formula to total all revenue listed, both from your ECEAP contract and the additional funding sources you entered. All the way to the right at the bottom of the body of the budget, there's a section that looks like this, and this cell right here will give you your organization's total operating budget. If your budget balances, the total revenue will equal your total budget. However, if total revenue is greater than total budget, your organization has more revenue than expenses. Likewise, if the total budget is greater than total revenue, then your organization has more expenses than revenue. In this way, the operating budget template provided by DCYF can help to inform your organization's overall program financials. The administrative rate, often interchangeably referred to as the indirect rate, includes indirect costs as well as the administrative costs of the program. You can find a good explanation of indirect and administrative expenses in the Operating Budget Instructions tab of the Operating Budget Template file. At the bottom of the document and to the left are the two small tables I referred to earlier. Again, these should not require any additional editing by you. The first table totals all ECEAP services contract expenses. This table does not include any of the expenses associated with any of the other revenue sources you reported in the body of the budget. The second table combines all administrative and indirect costs as well as the total contracted ECEAP funding and then calculates the administrative rate percentage here. This rate must not exceed 15% of your organization's total ECEAP services contracted amount. Submit your organization's operating budget deliverable by no later than the last business day of October. I would like to take a moment to stress the importance of properly formatting the name of files that are attached and sent as deliverables to the ECEAP inbox. Properly formatting file names and using those file names as subject lines of submission emails ensures that your organization's deliverable is routed, saved, and noted as received properly by DCYF ECEAP staff. So please follow the format you see here: organization name, contract period, operating budget. When submitting the operating budget to the DCYF ECEAP inbox, please be sure to copy the properly formatted file name as the subject line. The subject line should be the exact same as the appropriately named deliverable being submitted. Finally, it is important to attach only a single deliverable to each email submission. This means that if two deliverables are due on the same day, such as is the case with the operating budget and the staff compensation summary report, do not attach the documents to a single email. Please submit two separate emails with each of the deliverables attached individually. Again, this will ensure that DCYF ECEAP staff can appropriately track and record contract deliverable submissions. Timely submission of contractor deliverables is a requirement of every organization's contract with DCYF. Failure to submit deliverables, such as the operating budget, by the due date may result in withholding of contractor payment until the deliverable has been met or an extension request has been received and granted. DCYF ECEAP staff members are happy to work with each contractor around solutions for timely submission of deliverables and/or extensions for deliverables that your organization may be unable to submit by the due date. We understand there are unavoidable situations that can prevent these deliverables from being submitted on time. We simply ask that you reach out and communicate with either your CQI specialist or by dropping an email request for extension to the ECEAP inbox. Thank you for taking the time to learn about properly filling out and submitting your organization's operating budget deliverable. If you have any additional questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to your CQI specialist or the ECEAP inbox. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.